So, Mr. Orlando Jones, how are you today, sir?
I'm excellent today, sir. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. I'm all right. I think it should be prefaced that during these guild strikes, guys like me don't get an opportunity to speak to a lot of creators and actors these days. Things have kind of slowed down for our profession, rightfully so. But I did want to ask you because Till Death Do Us Part is kind of a purely independent film. So
Hmm.
it kind of doesn't fit in the same kind of guidelines and everything. And I'm curious because you've recently gone on record talking about what you feel the future of creation, creating content and entertainment is going to look like. What slice of the pie do you think films like Till Death Do Us Part fits? Like, how much do you think it's going to get in the future?
I think if we're looking at what transpired with music, there was a time when the gatekeepers handed you a bank loan and charged you against it, and that was the way the world worked. And then along came these guys, Birdman and Master P and whatnot, and they said, "Hey, we're going to be an independent studio, and we're going to do things differently." And everyone said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You're never going to get anywhere because the majors are always going to eat you up. You're never going to be anybody." And now Birdman is Lil Wayne and Drake and Weekend and Nicki Minaj, and the
Mhm.
biggest artists in the world are on in independent labels. I think that opportunity is back afoot, right? Independent filmmakers have the ability to tell stories that are in many ways more interesting, more compelling, and frankly done for a much cheaper price because they're done from a place of passion. They're not done from a place of commerce. They're done from a place of the desire to tell their story as an artist, right? And everybody sort of gets together to try to do it. So the final product often feels that way too. It feels more like it is an artistic creation, and it doesn't feel like a commercial that's just trying to sell you something else. In the world of commercials trying to sell you something consistently, and in a world where corporations only speak to you to say authentically, watch and buy, there is an opening in a world where people are saying to you, I don't care about your watching and buying. Let's talk about what we love as fans. Let's talk about our escapism. Let's talk about why we go to these cons and do these things together. And these people think we're weirdos and only come down here to market to us, right?
Yeah.
I think inauthenticity is something that is really important in the digital space. And that's been a dramatic change in many ways and brought to life, people like yourself as well, who cares about talking to Roger and Ebert when you have your own particular following who sees things your own way, right? And who's pointing out things that don't have to do with being an insider, right? It has to do with being a fan.
Right.
So I look at all those components and I look at where we're marching towards, and I say to myself, I don't believe that the gatekeepers really are in control of the gate anymore. And so because of that, I think there's incredible opportunities for artists who might have otherwise not had an opportunity to to find themselves having notoriety and being able to do this for a living and not have to take a day job. So for me as an artist, that's exciting. If you're a gatekeeper, I guess that's bad news, but I'm an artist and a fan. So for me, it's awesome.
Love it. What a fantastic answer. Well, you've come full circle in a sense because, early in your career, you played a groomsman on A Different World. I think it was one of your first on air performances. And now here you are as a groomsman again. I want to know, you just spoke about passion of independent films. What was the passion, or what did you pick up on Chad and Shane's script that kind of drew you to play a groomsman again?
Well, it has a double antagonist structure, which is odd. Generally, the antagonist played by the best man in this case would be the only antagonist in the movie, and you'd move down a pretty linear path, right? As you do in Expendables and other action films. In this particular case, there's a second antagonist, which is groomsman number 4, who really cannot stand the best man and doesn't particularly care for many of the other groomsmen in general. Sees himself as more elegant, sees himself as more refined, right? All of those components made me go, yeah, let's do this. And Timothy as a director, the way he shoots, the way he cuts, it doesn't look like just though anybody made this movie. And for me, those are the components, right? Do you have a storyteller that has a story to tell? Do you have characters that are interesting and compelling and do not feel like they fit in the same box as some crap I've seen before? Is
Right.
there a narrative structure in some way that breaks the narrative so that I can understand my way into the movie and I'm not just doing Kill Bill or what would you call John Wick, right? there's a bit more of a structure, and those are their own things. Certainly, this is within that realm, probably as gory, way more comedy. You definitely laugh a lot more.
Yeah.
So to put all those things in and to find yourself being compared to, Quentin Tarantino movies and John Wick movies for our little independent movie is a pretty awesome compliment. We really feel like we made a movie that feels like something original, and that's what we set out to do.
I love that you prefaced that connection between the comedy and the horror and the action in this film, because I wanted to talk to you about that, because obviously a man whose work you're familiar with, Mr. Jordan Peele, you guys had a little bit of a crossover there. And then more importantly, within your own career, you've taken the same turn. You did Sleepy Hollow, you're doing films like this. So you're kind of embracing that darker side. What do you think is the connection? What's your philosophy on the connection between comedy and gore or horror?
Look, I think human beings are multifaceted creatures. And when we see one dimensional of a human being, all you see is the bad. We tend to put them in a box. But when you get to see different elements of that human, you can kind of piece that human together a little bit differently, right? It connects you to the human in a different way. It becomes more like you. I think for me, I've always tried to infuse that in any of my work. Even when I was on MADTV, there are plenty of moments in MADTV where you could have just been in a drama movie. It's a ridiculous premise, but you play that purely as a dramatic actor. You play not an ounce of comedy because the structure itself is the comedy, right? So I think that's always about how I approach it. What's the character? How am I going to create this character? How does this character uniquely fit in this world and this world only? I don't want you to feel like you can pluck him out and he could have been in Sleepy Hollow or he could have been in American Gods. I want you to feel like, no, Mr. Nancy belongs in American Gods. He was born there. And I want you to feel like Groomsman number 4 belongs in Till Death Do Us Part. He belongs in the Academy. He belongs here. So my approach is to try and create a multifaceted character so that you can find a door into their world.
Man, okay, I got to talk about Mr. Nancy, because that character was just fantastic. And I want to say that character was so well performed, so well written, that it spoke to everybody. Because, even as a guy so Caucasian, I go to blueberry festivals. It was a character that when he spoke, you listened. You know what I mean? So you're talking about multifaceted. When you were bringing that into the writing, even for season 2 with that character, especially when you were let go from that show, you had talked about, you felt that the showrunner at the time felt like the character was too strong or was presenting too much of one side of the argument, which I think is ridiculous. So what were you trying to bring to that character in terms of him being multifaceted?
I think he was definitely trying to make the character more linear, right? And trying to pull away from components that he thought were offensive to the audience. I feel like the audience was much smarter than that. And I knew immediately that, first of all, you've heard all that before.
Yeah.
All right. The difference is he doesn't care. He's not trying to save you. Like he wants you to sacrifice yourself to him, but he ain't trying to save you. So it's a humor to it to him. He doesn't approach it with this fire and brimstone. He approaches it like this, okay. And I liked that element. I like trying to find a way to tell a story so that it resonates. And so with Nancy, that's what I was approaching. I wanted him to be funny. Yeah. I wanted him to turn on a dime, where he's in the middle of making you laugh, but he's talking about something that's serious to him. And he realizes in order to get these people to kill themselves in his name, he's going to have to get into their soul. So that for me was him, right? And the more they tried to put him in the box, the more I tried to pull him out. Because I saw him as allied to Mr. Wednesday, right? And Mr. Wednesday is death. I mean, he's not death, he's war. He's war. But the character that they thought he should be allied to, which is Ibis, is death. Nancy can't stand Ibis. He doesn't care that he's an African god. He far more likes this. And to me, that's the way it is. They think it's about race. And it isn't. He likes Mr. Wednesday and he likes Mad Sweeney far more than he likes this African god over here. And the fact that that guy's black means nothing to Mr. Nancy. It matters that he is killing Mr. Nancy's worshipers because he allows them to die because he's dead.
Right.
Again, that to me is a more multifaceted look at life, rather than trying to take anything that you felt might be offensive from Nancy because you thought it was going to be offensive to white people. I'm like, what are you talking about? White people understand race. They invented it. They, you know, what are you talking about? They're not offended by it in any way, shape, or form. They just don't want you to sell them some BS. You know, and I don't blame them. I feel like multiculturalism is one thing, but the way you guys are doing it, it feels corporate, and that feels like BS. So sorry, I'm on their team. This idea that pitting us against each other is the same, but you know, I'm a coach's son, so I see us all as the same, and I get what their hustle is. If we hate each other, it's easiest to keep us in line. So, you know, whatevs.
Well put. Well put. Well, Orlando, I can't thank you enough for your time. I could talk about American Gods forever with you because there's so much I want to ask, but I got to say, just keep fighting the BS, my friend. Keep putting out what you're putting out, and best of luck with this film.
Thank you very much, brother. We're all fighting the same fight. We just pretending it's a different one, and you and I will hopefully get to talk again soon. Thank you.
Hey Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.